Good afternoon, all friends from all over the world. It is great honor and pleasure to be here with you. Today I'm going to about my research gender role stereotype and leadership in Korean Buddhism. But before started, I'm sorry for announcing an ongoing research project for which I have yet to complete the survey. So first, I will discuss gender and leadership and the characteristics of Buddhist leadership and impact of gender role stereotype on leadership. Lastly, finally, the effect of social capital on leadership. Okay. This research focuses on social capital and gender role stereotype as factors related to transformational leadership performance. The notion of social capital was conceptualized by scholars focusing on social relationships among humans and the usefulness of inherent resources in the network. Social capital is defined as the aggregate of actual and potential resources acquired by membership in a certain group through a continued network or institutionalization relationship of mutual knowledge and recognition, namely human relationships. Social capital affects the efficiency of an organization in several ways, which include reduction in relocation, knowledge sharing and innovation, reduction in exchange cost and risk, and improvement of product quality of production side. Knowledge sharing and social capital have been shown to be significant parameters between transformational leadership and creativity. Social capital is created by developing the altruistic motives of members, but not when selfishness is prevalent among members in the group. Transformational leadership has a significantly meaningful effect on the sub-factors of social capital, including social norms, formation of networks, and formation of trust. Male leadership features strong discipline in hierarchical relations, whereas female leaders tend to be reflective and flexible. Some scholars believe that bonds between people tend to be weak under female leadership. Religion may provide more stable leadership in resolving complex problems in modern society. However, growth in the Korean Buddhist community is slowing down, and we may consider whether this is because of Buddhism's inability to exercise female leadership in a present society that values diversification, providing complete care to people, and fulfilling their personal needs. In this study, I will analyze the relationship between gender role stereotypes, social capital, acceptance of female leaders, and leadership expectations. Currently, few studies have examined transformational leadership with gender role stereotypes and social capital in mind. In particular, insufficient studies have been conducted on transformational leadership, gender stereotypes, and female leadership. Therefore, this research examined transformational and transactional leadership and the relation between Buddhist expectations on leadership characteristics, gender stereotypes, social capital, and acceptance of female leaders. These findings will yield implications for the importance and execution of female leadership in Buddhism. Moreover, the findings will contribute to leadership in Buddhism. The findings will contribute to the development of education and counseling programs to improve gender sensibility and help spread the culture of gender equality in Buddhism. And move to gender and leadership. Okay. Some scholars analyze the difference between male and female leaders using so-called MBTI and found that the most prominent differences were in the areas of sensation and intuition. People with a strong sensing preference are interested in practical problem systems and methods, perform well in daily tasks, and try to take a rational approach to problem solving. On the other hand, people with a strong intuitive preference are good at dealing with ambiguous problems. They adapt theory and deduction, feel bored with everyday life, and try to take a creative approach to problem solving. In this study, female leaders showed a higher preference for intuition, while male leaders showed a stronger preference for sensing. Female and male leadership are distinctly different, and female leadership has been identified as mutual and interactive. Female leadership values interaction and conversations and encourages participation by sharing other people's ability and information and boosting their self-esteem. Shared leadership is presented as one of the characteristics of female leadership. Shared leadership is not individualistic and instead focuses on helping each member of the group achieve their goals through organic relationship as equal persons. A literature review examining different leadership types based on gender showed that men exercise structure-driven and work-oriented leadership, whereas women exhibit social, considerate, the men exercise structure-driven and work-oriented leadership, whereas women exhibit social, considerate, anthropocentric characteristics and exercise democratic leadership. I move to the characteristics of Buddhist leadership. Today, possessing certain qualities of a great leader, as well as seemingly effective factors, is insufficient to exert influence that promotes change in people. People are moved after learning something valuable from a leader, and it is only then that they begin to change. It is really impossible to elicit inspiration solely from a leader's outward demeanor. When a leader's thoughts and values shift and they are completely renewed from within, their influence naturally manifests itself in their daily life. This is when the public can sense and be influenced by their value. Furthermore, leadership interest has shifted to the community dimension, where both praise, develop, and progress together beyond the internal dimensions of a leader's identity and the cooperative relationship dimension of their constitutions. This change represented a comprehensive transformation in the way people live, as well as a paradigm shift toward the holistic, synergistic approach. Buddha and Sangha exemplified this type of Buddhist leadership. According to Professor Cho, Buddhist leadership is the application of the power internal insight drawn from Buddhist values to one's contact with the world. We struggle with the problems of our life and existence itself, but these are also the problems concerning the world around us. Many issues require us to consider ourselves as well as in external world. We must actively engage in the issues that surround us and bring them into the realm of our daily lives, continuously working to put them into practice. To address and cope with the world which consists of others and environment, we require life principles that teach us how to solve problems and respond appropriately. This is where Buddhist leadership is called upon, where the teachings themselves become the guidelines for our lives and the principles for our action. Buddhist leadership must involve the integration of theory and practices that is relevant to life. Let's move to impact of gender role stereotype on leadership. The stereotype of gender role framework has recognized the role of leadership in the male realm, partially influencing the ceiling glass effect faced by competent female leaders as they mature in the workspace and limiting the number of women seeking leadership positions. In addition, there are still prejudice and discriminatory evaluation felt by female leaders in the field. Compared to male leaders, the evaluation and attitude toward the female leaders are more negative because there is a difference between expectation in terms of gender roles and expectations in terms of leadership roles. Dr. Eagerly named this the social role theory, arguing that individuals are expected to behave in accordance with the gender roles stipulated in the society and culture to which they belong. Leaders are expected to be self-directed, aggressive, ambitious, dominant, and possessive. But when a woman becomes a leader, she is expected to be kind, supportive, helpful, and sympathetic. As a result, people become more positive and favorable to male leaders. Professor Tsai noted that the results were constantly not only in North America but also in Europe as well as in Asian countries. Traditionally, masculinity and femininity are perceived as conflicting characteristics. However, when proposed the concept of androgyny, the possession of both masculine and feminine characteristics is in an individual based on the premise that masculinity and femininity are independent dimensions. Some studies have also shown that not only does the androgynous type have high internal control, high intellectual ability, and excellent academic achievement, but it has also been found that androgyny is high among students in leadership positions. Vertical organizational structures are gradually leveling off, emphasizing teamwork for collective intelligence rather than individual ability. Organizations are changing more appropriately to transformational leadership as creative capabilities become more important than structures and manualized tasks. Therefore, it is expected that it will be difficult for both men and women to grow into competent leaders if they have a high gender role stereotype. We move to next. Leadership, despite its many definitions, has almost a common meaning. In other words, leadership comes from the interaction of two or more people in an organization and allows followers to enthusiastically and willingly realize the work organization and allows followers, the work they have undertaken. In this regard, leadership can be seen as closely related to social capital because it is based on relationships. Because of its characteristics, social capital not only coordinates behavior based on the trust of members and establishes organizational norms, but also releases expectation that acting favorably toward others will eventually return to you. This, therefore, affects the interaction between leaders and members of the groups. Based on the basic concept contained in the definition of leadership, the relationship with the social capital can be seen in the following 6 characteristics. First, because leadership is related to organizational goals, it develops cooperative systems among members and increases the organization's social capital. Second, leadership will improve reliability among members and the relationship between leaders and members of the organization. The third, leadership is not limited to the official leader of an organization. It can also act in an opposite direction, affecting the relationship between colleagues or hierarchy encouraging horizontal reliability and cooperation, and affecting organizational social capital. Fourth, leadership is more natural through an interactive process than by forcing the members to act, thus encouraging the understanding between the leaders and the members. Therefore, mutual understanding, one of the characteristics of social capital, increases. Fifth, leadership is closely related to social capital because it is not exercised just because leaders act authoritatively, but because its influence is exercised through the interest and participation of each member. Leadership to which they belong. Leadership allows each member to carry out various tasks that are divided within the group to which they belong. By doing so, the social capital of the organization is increased by inducing members to participate systematically and positively. According to Kim and Won, leadership is the most influential variable in the revitalization of private agencies and organizations. So if leaders have the desirable influence, the social capital of a private organization can be greatly improved. They stress the importance of systematically analyzing and studying leadership. In order for communication to be developed and for successful member cooperation, leadership must be cultivated with the participation of members, and it is difficult to achieve partial results without accumulating social capital. This is because the leadership of communities and organizations plays a necessary coordination role in the process in which community leadership presents a vision to the community and organization, such goals and strategies, and various stakeholders achieve joint goals. Furthermore, community leadership can have a positive impact on community governance through social capital, such as community trust and opening up communication channels and norms. Trusted community leadership can encourage participation of passive participants and those expecting free rides by encouraging voluntary cooperation among members of the organization, thereby offsetting the negative effect of social capital. Therefore, it can be argued that the intellectual stimulation and charisma of transformational leadership influence the various factors of social capital. We are experiencing more conflicts between classes and generations than ever before. Such conflicts are seen as a task that needs to be solved not only in families but also in society in a whole. In this time, the older generation is encouraged to abandon the past and understand and accept the younger generation. And the same is true of leaders. Leadership is needed to maximize the abilities of subordinates through horizontal relationships by empowering them with respect, consideration, and tolerance. Such characteristics of leaderships are generally closer to those of women than men. Of course, men do not lack such leadership quality, but many studies have shown that women's inclusion and consideration can make organizations more flexible and innovative. Therefore, in this presentation, I tried to find out how acceptance of female leadership and leadership expectations related to gender role stereotypes and social capital. In particular, despite the fact that the proportion of female leadership is much higher in Buddhist organizations, the study was aimed at Buddhists who had relatively little female leadership activity. The relationship between Korean Buddhist gender role stereotypes, social capital, the acceptance of female leaders, and the leadership expectation is expected to be as follows in my further research. First, is there a significant difference between gender stereotype and expectation of social capital and leaderships? And second, If we look at gender role stereotype and the difference between social capital and leadership expectation, the older we get, the greater the role of gender stereotypes, while the social capital is lower. Third, it is possible to think about the difference between gender role stereotypes and expectation for social capital and leadership depending on one's educational background. First, the last is we can consider the differences in gender role stereotypes, social capital, and leadership expectations according to one's position within the Buddhist community. It is so that the traditional teaching of Korean Buddhism and the formation of a Buddhist-centered relationship can lead to a difference in expectation between gender role stereotypes and social capital. Thank you for your attention.